By what name are you known?
There are some who call me Tim.
Welcome to another episode of Timmy Talks, the channel where we talk old school magic. And today we are back in Arnhem for the Camel Trophy, and we have reached the semi-finals. So only 4 wizards are still standing tall at this tournament. Now just a quick reminder, we are playing according to the gentleman's rules, meaning no library or Alexandria and no mind twists. Those cards are not being played at this event. And in this semifinals, we've got 2 pretty cool decks, if I say so myself. We've got a mono green deck that's being piloted by Tim, and he's taking on the organizer of the tournament, Bjorn. And Bjorn is playing Verduran Enchantress, and this deck is called Verduran Enchantress Aggro. It's got a lot of ramp, it's got a lot of big creatures that he wants to ramp out, I guess. And it's just looking like a really cool list. So I'm really happy to see Bjorn's deck making it all the way here to the semifinals. It's the second Verduran Enchantress deck at this tournament, and that actually doesn't happen a lot. Usually you see 1 Verduran Enchantress deck, that's it. But here we've got 2, and one of them even made it here in the semifinals. Isn't that grand? Now, before I jump into the deck techs, I first would like to point out that you can also choose to go to the games, check out the deck techs later. I know some people prefer to do that. The easiest way to do this is by checking out the description below, because there you can find several timestamps. One of those timestamps reads MTG Games, so click on there. It'll take you straight to the games, and in that same description below you can also find more information about this tournament, about the rules. There's a link to their website, so you can just find more information there. And also there's a link to the Timmy Talks Patreon page, because yes, I've got my very own Patreon. You can find that on patreon.com/TimmyTalks. So if you like the content that I make, please consider becoming a patron and support the channel that way. Please check out patreon.com/TimmyTalks when you have a moment. Okay, and now that you're fully informed, I'm going to continue with the deck techs. I'm going to start with the deck of Bjorn. Let's take a look at his Verduran Enchantress Aggro Brew. And here we see the deck of Bjorn, Verduran Enchantress Aggro, and I mean, I'm really liking this deck. I mean, it's so cool. It's got 3 Mahamoti Djinns, it's got 2 Forces of Nature, 3 clones. It's just awesome. Maybe just first focus on Verduran Enchantress. So this is 2 green and 1 for an 0/2 creature. Whenever you play an enchantment, you may draw a card. So obviously, you want to get your Verduran Enchantress out as quickly as possible. Then you start playing your enchantment, Sylvan Library, Wild Growth, which is ramp as well. We've got Control Magics. What I also like in this deck, by the way, so then you're drawing your cards. We also have a Lay Druid in the deck, which is super cool. When did you see a Lay Druid last in the semifinals of an old school tournament? How cool is that? This is a 1/1 creature, 1 green and 2 to cast. You can tap it to untap target land. So that means if you have a land with a Wild Growth enchanted on it, you tap it for 2 mana, then you untap it with your Lay Druid, tap it again. That means 4 mana, right? So this deck really wants to ramp up in the early stages of the game, and because you have your Enchantress, you're hopefully also going to draw cards, getting a lot of ammunition in your hand. And the ammunition, of course, is the 3 Mahamoti Djinns, the 2 Forces of Nature, and then you also have your clones to clone the Forces of Nature. I mean, this deck is just looking awesome. I'm really liking this, Bjorn. And I'm critical when I have to be critical, but this is a list I really like. Of course, we also see the power, the blue power, that's going to help it along. In case you maybe are just going to find your ramp and nothing else, then you still have your draw 7s in the form of a Time Twist to refill your hand. I also think Brain Geyser works really well with all the ramp. I'm just really looking forward to see this deck in action, actually. Let's take a look at the deck of your opponent, which is, I believe, Tim, who is on mono green. And here we see the mono green deck of Tim. So just to clarify, this is Tim, not me. It's not Timmy, it's Tim, an old school Magic player from The Hague, part of the Old Man of the Sea crew, as you can see on his playmat. Now he's playing mono green, super aggro. I mean, look at this list. How many creatures does he have? 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28 creatures, and I'm not even counting the Mishra's Factories. I love the fact that he's only playing with play sets, except for the restricted cards. I guess he's playing with 3 Pendle Havens instead of 4. 3 is probably the sweet spot. I know that Tim always plays, or almost always plays, mono green, so he probably knows if it's best to play with 3 Pendle Havens or 4. He knows his stuff when it comes to mono green. What I'm liking about this deck, just looking at it right now, is that he's not playing with Berserks. Berserk, of course, is a super good card, also in combination with Giant Growth and Pendlehaven, and of course in a super aggressive deck like this. On the other hand, though, In a lot of cases, you're going to have Berserk in your hand where it's just not going to be that good. I mean, if you Berserk a 1-power creature or a 2-power creature, the impact is minimal, and you probably much rather would have another creature on the board. So I kind of understand the decision not to play with Berserk here. That being said, I probably would have sneaked in a Berserk just to have that one surprise card as a single card in the deck. But I mean, then you got to break up one of these beautiful playsets, and you probably don't want to do that. But yeah, looking at this deck, I mean, it's going to do what Mono Green's going to do, right? You're going to have probably a turn 1/1 drop because you've got, what, 12 1/1/1 drops? Ideally, that's going to be a lot nowhere else, because then turn 2, you can play an Ice Storm where you kind of slow your opponent down, and of course you're ramping up with your Llanowar. And then you just take over from there. You're going to swarm your opponent with tons of creatures. You're going to keep attacking. This is super aggressive. All you want to do as an opponent is just try to survive the first start of the game. And if you survive and can drag it into mid-game, late game, you're probably going to win. But that's a pretty big if, because look at, all the aggression. Another card that I guess I'm missing a little bit besides the Berserk is the Hurricane. We do see Hurricane in the side. I would be tempted to play one Hurricane in the main because it's another source of damage. When you're looking at this deck, you can only deal damage through combat, and against certain decks that can be really difficult. Like if you're able to play a mode against this, you're going to have a really tough time, and then Hurricane at least is another way to kind of finish the job, because that's of course what you're missing in Mono Green is that direct damage, and Hurricane gives you access to that. But that being said, I think against a lot of decks, this list, just this basic 60 is going to be super good. It's just going to go so incredibly fast. And that also explains why this deck is doing so well at the Camel Trophy here. Okay, so this is the deck of Tim. We talked about the deck of his opponent, and that means we are ready to go to the match. Enjoy. Game number 1 here of the Camel Trophy. We're in the semi-finals, and we're seeing Bjorn here taking a mulligan, putting a card there on the bottom. He's the player on the right. He's playing green-blue for Verduran Enchantress. Pretty cool deck, opening with the Llanowar Elves, playing against Tim. He's on the left, and he's playing Mono Green aggro, so Mono Green Stompy. And there we see a Verduran Enchantress by Bjorn, and passing the turn. So the O2 creature that allows you to draw a card whenever you play an enchantment. So turn 2, Enchantress, pretty good for Bjorn. And I'm expecting to see some creatures here from Tim, tapping 2 green. Script Sprites, so 2 1/1 flyers here on the board, and they can fly over, of course, the Enchantress and the Llanowar of Bjorn. Let's see what Bjorn can do in his third turn. Ooh, Diamond Valley, that's not good. It means that he doesn't have a mana-producing land in hand, probably. Playing out a second Enchantress. So hopefully for him, he's got an enchantment there in his hand. Let's first see what Tim can do. I'm expecting Tim to kind of play out more creatures. His deck is really chock full of creatures. And of course, he's probably going to attack there with those 2 1/1 flying Script Sprites. Okay, going to tap the green here, it seems. Okay, he's going to animate the factory. Then he's going to swing in for 4. So I guess he doesn't have a lot of creatures to play out at this moment. So 16, passing the turn. Wow, so not playing out any more creature threats. Perhaps he's got Urnums and Suchis in hand and just misses that 3rd mana. And Bjorn here playing a Sylvan. Yeah, this is great for Bjorn, drawing 2 cards from the Sylvan. Probably going to find a land then, with so much card draw going on. There we go, Island, tapping 2. Oh, Time Walk! This is a sweet turn for Bjorn. Is he now able to kind of take over here? Looking at the top 3 cards, is there an enchantment amongst them? If there's one enchantment, he can draw 2 more. I mean, those enchantresses are going to do a lot of work for Bjorn, if the plan works out, of course. 2 cards in hand here. I think the fact that he's really thinking about it so deep that there are no enchantments in those top 3 cards, which is unfortunate for Bjorn. And now he's really in the tank. Yeah, I guess it's not an enchantment, or else why would you think so long? If there's an enchantment in there, you would just pick the enchantment, play it out, draw the other 2 cards after that, because of your double Enchantress. There we see a forest. Tapping a forest. Okay, there's a Wild Growth. Okay, so he did have an enchantment. So perhaps he was thinking about getting an extra card then. Anyway, tapping the forest here for 2 and a blue. There's an Ice Storm. Okay, gonna take care of the Mistress Factory. That makes sense. Gonna strip the other forest. Of course, knowing that Tim, I believe, missed a land drop in the previous turn. So really attacking the mana base of Tim here. And all of a sudden, Tim is kind of in trouble here. It's not looking great for him. Attacking for 2. Gonna put Bjorn on 14. Or are we gonna see a Giant Growth? No, just 14. Passing the turn. Wow, this is ideal for Bjorn. Remember, Bjorn is playing with 2 Forces of Nature. Ooh, I think I saw an Ancestral Recall there. He's playing with 2 Forces of Nature and I believe 3 Mahamoti Djinns and of course clones. There we see the Ancestral. So I guess what he wants now is one of those big creatures, right? Or a Force or a Mahamoti. But of course for the Mahamoti he does need a second blue source. Okay, there we see a Trop. So that's your second blue. Doesn't have enough mana at the moment though. But then next turn he could potentially play out a Mahamoti. Yeah, counting his mana. And I believe I saw a late Druid in hand there as well. Late Druid, of course, a 1/1, but it's kind of handy because it can untap land. So you can untap your land with the Wild Growth on it to make 4 mana from 1 land. Another Enchantress, wow. That is insane. I think the only good news here for Bjorn is that there's no more pressure coming from Bjorn. So Tim has kind of an option to get back here playing a Pendelhaven, which is quite nice. I can pump those Crypt Sprites. I mean, I would be tempted to just attack if I was Tim, you know? Why not? You're the aggressor. Bjorn is on 14. Exactly, just swing in. And if you've got nothing better to do, just pump, you know? Okay, he's got a better option in the form of a Whirling Dervish. Protection from black, which is not going to be relevant. It is a 1/1. Every time it deals combat damage to the opponent, it gets a +1/+1 counter. So it could be interesting next turn together with that Pendelhaven for Tim to attack. But let's first see what Bjorn can do. We're looking at the top 3 cards again because of the Sylvan. And hopefully for him, there's going to be an enchantment. I mean, 1 enchantment is going to allow him to draw 3 cards. Oh, look at that hand there. Yeah, only 4 drops. We also see some Giant Growths in there, which are pretty good, actually. So there's a blue and the Tolaria. So 2 blue tapped. 4 blue. Are we going to see a clone here? Is he going to clone another Enchantress? No, we're going to see a Control Magic. Wow. That is amazing because he's going to draw 3 cards. So it's like an Ancestral Recall every time you play an enchantment. That's just insane. 3 cards here. Now the question is, what is he going to steal? I think I would go for a flyer. Yeah, exactly. Because then you can always jump if need be. And I mean, you're on 12, and against like an aggressive deck like the green deck, it can go, your life total can go down quite fast. So 12 may seem safe, but I wouldn't be 100% reassured if I was Bjorn. I mean, it's looking really good for him, also because he's got the Diamond Valley. But it's not done yet. Looks like he wanted to tap 3 there to perhaps play out that late Druid in hand, choosing to play out a Llanowar Elves instead, passing the turn here back to Tim. Yeah, Tim just needs to get to 4 mana. Okay, he's getting closer now with the Mox Emerald. Just needs 1 more mana source and he can play out the Suchi and the Urnam Djinn he's got in hand. Now remember, he also has some Giant Growths there, so he's going to attack here with both. Kind of inviting Bjorn here to tap the Whirling Dervish. He is going to block with the Llanowar, and then he's going to pump, and now he's going to eat up the Llanowar after blockers are declared. So he's going to gain a life, and he's going to take lose a life to the Script Sprite, so he's going to stay on 12. And I think this is a good strategy by Bjorn. You really don't want to take more damage. And now he's going to draw, or look at 3 more cards, I should say. He's not going to draw 3 more cards yet, unless, of course, he finds an enchantment in there. It's really insane for him having these 3 Verduran Enchantresses on the board. I mean, I guess you just, what I said, you just want to have a big creature, right? Mahamoti or Force. I mean, a Force would be epic on this board. So Bjorn here really in the tank. Okay, picking the card. There's a Forest. I mean, he's got enough mana now. Gonna tap the forest for 2. Okay, gonna tap 4 mana. 5, 6. Okay, we're gonna see a Mamoti. Oh, Force of Nature. Yeah. 8/8 trample. Wow. This is very painful for Tim, and I just don't see a way back from this. I think Tim is going to lose this first game. Now, do remember, it's just game 1. We have it's a best of 3, of course. So after this, both players are going to sideboard. But yeah, it's looking very bad here for Tim in game 1. He's going to play there a Mishra's Factory, finally hitting his 4 of mana, so he can start casting the Suchis and the Urnums. First, there's the attack with the sprites. Offering the trade, there's the block. And this block is a good decision from Bjorn, because it means if he uses the Pendelhaven, which he does, that he doesn't have the 4 mana to play out any bigger creature. So this is actually a really good strategy here from Bjorn. And again, you see him kind of eating up the script sprites in response to the pump with the Pendelhaven, because you're doing that before damage is dealt. And that's, of course, another strength here of the Diamond Valley, that you get a little bit of value out of your chump blocks. And I think there's not much here that Tim can do. Exactly, just passing the turn, because I believe he's got a Giant Growth in hand and 2 4-drops. And then, of course, we see Bjorn paying the 4 green for the Force of Nature. If you don't pay the 4 green, you take 8 damage. You would drop to 5, so that's would be a very bad decision. So just going to draw 1 card. And then I wonder, yeah, he's going to swing in with his 8/8. Look at that, he's going to drop to 12. Yeah, man, this Force of Nature is just incredible. Also because he has that Diamond Valley, right? If anything happens to the Force, he can always sack it in response. Oh, look at this regrowing Time Walk. Oh my God. Of course, playing it out. Oh, man. Insult over injury here. And Bjorn really giving a nice demonstration of what his deck can do here in the semifinals of the Camel Trophy. Now, remember, it is just game 1. So we are going to see a second game after this. But damn, this deck is very strong. And Tim dropping here to 4. There's a clone on the Force of Nature, it seems. Wow. And he's saying, you know what? I don't mind that I cannot pay the upkeep cost for the other Force. I'll just gladly take 8 and swing in for 16. And yeah, that's it here. Bjorn winning game number 1 here of the semifinals. And now both players are going to dive into their sideboards, and we will catch back up with them in game number 2. Game number 2, here we go. So Bjorn, the player on the right, is 1 game up with this blue-green Enchantress deck, taking on Tim, who's now on the play. He's playing mono-green aggro, and of course his deck is much better on the play. So let's see what he can do, starting with the Forest. And there's the Dryads, Shanodin Dryads, a card that came in from the sideboard, a 1/1 Forest Walker. And here we see Bjorn opening with a Wild Growth. So this Dryads could be quite annoying, because, yeah, it's got Forest Walks. They can keep attacking Bjorn here. And we don't see a 2-drop here by Tim. Ooh, that surprises me looking at his deck list. Oh, there's a Prodigal Sorcerer coming in from the sideboard, I guess. That's quite good for Bjorn. That can kill all those smaller creatures. There we see an Ice Storm. There's the attack. I mean, this Ice Storm is quite good, of course, on the land with the Wild Growth on it. But this Timmy could be really difficult for Tim to deal with. Killing here the first 1/1. And there's just a pass turn. Okay, no lands here for Bjorn. That's a bit problematic. And of course, Tim can just attack here with the 2/2. Or does he have a better option? If he can have a land drop and then a 4-drop, like a Suchi or an Urnum, that would be quite good. Thinking about tapping those 3 forests, it seems. Gonna tap 3. There's an Ice Storm on the last land. Wow. Yeah, this is quite good, of course, for Tim. I mean, if Bjorn's mana screwed, you know, it was looking so good for him dropping the Prodigal Sorcerer earlier, but now no mana here. Oh, there's an Urnum to make matters worse for Bjorn. Bjorn is in serious trouble. There's probably the ping on end step that Bjorn mentioned. There's the attack with 4. Yeah, he's going to drop to 14. Oh, this is so bad. There's the Suchi. Bjorn already picking up the cards. Wow, this was such a fast game number 2. And yeah, Bjorn must be really unhappy with how this went. He started off so strong with that Prodigal Sorcerer in turn 2. But after that, no lands were found. 2 Ice Storms were being cast by Tim, and that was the end of the road for Bjorn. So now both players are going to shuffle up, and we're going to go to an all-deciding game number 3. Game number 3, here we go. The winner will move on to the finals of the Camel Trophy number 6. It is Bjorn on the play, which is good for him. I mean, if you have Tim's deck, you really want to be on the play with your mono green aggro. Of course, both players going back up to 20, and just a basic force being played out and a pass, it seems. And then we'll have to wait and see what Tim can do here. It looks like he's a little bit in the tank already, so that probably means he's got a lot of options. Remember, he's playing with 12 1/1 1-drops, and also boarded in the Dryads, which it's another 1/1 1-drop. Oh, look at this. Mox Emerald tapping 2. What are we going to see? There's the Argovian Pixies, the 2/1. And all damage dealt with by artifacts is reduced to 0, and it cannot be blocked by artifact creatures. That can be quite handy in old school. And there's the Sylvan by Bjorn and the pass. So this is pretty nice for Tim. He can swing in for 4, right? If he animates the factory. Taking his time, which is understandable. This is the 3rd game. The winner will move on to the finals. Look at this, animating. Probably going to pump it with the other factory. Going to deal 5. Changing his mind. Going to go for 4. So I expect he's got another creature to play out. Tapping the Mox. There's a Lanowar. Yeah, this is what Tim wants to do. Just put pressure on the board very early. And he doesn't want to give Bjorn time to kind of, get his Verduran Enchantress draw engine going. That was working so well for him in game number 1. It was really a great demonstration of what his deck can do. Going to tap 3. Are we going to see a Verduran Enchantress here? No, we're going to see a Tim. Prodigal Sorcerer, really good, of course, against the mono green deck. He can use it to ping down the Argovian Pixies and the Lanowar Elves. It is going to go a little bit slow, though. And I wonder if maybe Tim has another land drop and he can start playing his 4 drops. Actually, he's got the Lanowar Elf, so already has 4 mana. Oh, this Pendelhaven is quite nice against the Tim as well. I wonder what he's going to do. Like, he could potentially animate both his factories, swing in for 7, and say, you know what, you're probably going to kill my Argovian Pixies next, but I don't care. I'm just going to attack so hard every single turn. Or he could, of course, choose to play out maybe a 4-drop. Look at this, just attacking with these 2 creatures. And I think that means that he's got a Suture Ernim in hand that he wants to play out in his 2nd main. And I think, you have to take the damage here. You don't want to sacrifice your Prodigal Sorcerer. It's too good in this matchup. And now we see him playing it, tapping 4. So are we going to see an Ernim or a Suchi? That's the big question. We're going to see a Suchi. And I think if you're Bjorn, what you need now is another blue source and a control magic. I mean, that can save you here. If you cannot find that, then it's going to be tough. So looking at the top 3 cards, of course, because of the Sylvan Library. And I mean, Sylvan is really good, but against a deck like Tim's, it's not that great because you don't have the luxury to pay 4 life for an extra card. I mean, it's still good, of course, in combination with the Verduran Enchantress, but Bjorn's deck is just so much slower than Tim's deck. And I mean, look at Tim's battlefield, right? And he wasn't even on the play. He was on the draw. And still, look at all the permanents he's got on the board there. 3 creatures, a Mox, and of course 2 factories that he can also animate. And the Pendelhaven, which is quite good. So yeah, card has now been chosen by Bjorn. Going to tap a blue. Yep, there's an Ancestral Recall. Again, great card, but is it going to help you? A really cool altered Ancestral Recall, by the way, by Richard Garfield with that music note. And I really wonder what Bjorn can do. I guess this is the land. Okay, there's Diamond Valley. Yeah, not great. There's the pass. Yeah, it's not looking good for Bjorn. I have to be honest. He's already on 13. And I mean, I guess Tim is just going to attack here with everything. Unless he's got a better option. Another way, of course, if he has another 4-drop, is to first attack with the 3 creatures. And then second main play another like Urnum or Suchi. There we see another land. There's a forest. Only 2 cards, I believe, left for Tim there in his hand. I would be tempted to just animate both factories, swinging with everything, you know? And then I guess if you're Bjorn, you're going to jump block the Suchi, ping another creature, right? And then sack it to the Diamond Valley to kind of minimize the damage that you have to take. This is really going to be an interesting turn here. Thinking about it, I think he's also thinking about, do I want to animate and go full in, or does he have something better to do with the mana? Does he have something still in hand? Looks like he's going to tap. No, he's going to untap again. I mean, if you've got a 4-drop, right, you probably want to do that. You probably want to do that in your second main, or maybe he's got an Ice Storm and he's thinking about Ice Storming the Diamond Valley. So Tim again reorganizing the lands there. And I mean, do remember, this is the semi-finals. This is the decisive game. The winner will move on to the finals. So it's understandable that the players are taking their time. Going to tap 3. Yep, there's the Ice Storm. Going to go for the island. Actually, that's a pretty good decision. Because if he has second blue, he can potentially play out a Control Magic. You don't want that to happen. There's the attack. And he can choose not to block. Yeah, he's going to block the Suchi. Bing, and there's the Giant Grove. Yeah, this is the worst scenario here for Bjorn, because now he's going to take 6 damage and he's going to lose his Tim. He is going to gain 1 from the Diamond Valley, so I believe he's going to end up on 8. Okay, it's 7. I guess I can't count. And look at that. Now he finds Control Magic. Yeah, slamming it on the table like, what is this? Showing his hand. Yeah, he really needed that second blue. Yeah, unfortunate for Bjorn, but very fortunate for Tim, making it to the finals with his mono green deck. Congratulations to Tim. And if you want to see the finals on Timmy Talks, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. You can do that by hitting the subscribe button and ring that bell. And if you ring that bell, of course, you will be notified whenever I put another video online, so you don't have to miss the finals. And before you go, please also take a moment to like, share, and comment on this video. All these things are free and really help the channel move forward. So please let me know in the comments, how do you feel about both of these decks? I really enjoyed both decks, actually. And seeing like Bjorn's deck going off in game 1 was really good. But then again, just seeing the classical mono green aggro strategy, I also like that a lot. And I loved seeing a Shadow Lane Dryads in the semifinals of an old school tournament. That's just super, super cool. Anyway, like I said, next time we'll be back with the finals of the Camel Trophy. Oh yes, and before you go, one final thing I would like to share with you, and that is, of course, that we have our very own Patreon page. Check out patreon.com/TimmyTalks for all the information. And talking about that, let's go to the end scroll and have a look at all our fantastic, wunderbar, amazing channel members and patrons of Timmy Talks. Here we go.
What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises. Early in the morning, putting in the longboat until he's sober, putting in the longboat until he's sober, putting in the longboat until he's sober. Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises. Rises early in the morning. Pull out the plug and whack him all over. Pull out the
Figitus, figitus, somber kazee.